I'm going to talk today about one of the biggest mistakes that students make, and that is overestimating time before their exams. And in a nutshell, students just think, I have plenty of time left to revise for my exams, I can study later. And I'm talking about students in year 9, in year 10, and in year 11. But there's a problem with this because it leads to stress, it leads to anxiety, it leads to lack of preparation for their exams or lack of sufficient preparation for their exams, and of course, poor performance on exam day. Now, the reality is we all do this, don't we? So when I go back and I think of my university days, if the assignment was due on a Friday at 5 p.m., I would be one of the many students who would be handing it on Friday at 5 p.m. or 5:01 or 5:03 or 5:30 p.m., right? And I'm sure you can all relate to that. So if we as adults are guilty of that, then we can understand that students also have the same problem. Okay, so let me just quickly share this with you so we're ready to go. So we're looking at overestimating time before exams. And at the end of this, I'm going to share with you a tool that I use with our students to help them not fall into this category. So if you want an opportunity to get that resource, stay at the end and you'll have access to that resource. Just very quickly here, this is one of our students who've been with us for a while now, doing maths and science with us. She's really working towards top grades in both of those so that she can move on to study medicine at university. So common misconceptions of students then is, I have plenty of time, I can study later. I do not need to start studying until it's closer to the exams, or I can just rely on my memory to recall that information during the exam. But this is a problem. Why is it a problem? Because all of that is just completely incorrect, right? You can't start studying later when GCSE exams are now 3 years, right? When I was studying at school, they're 2 years. Now they are 3 years, because much of the content has been brought down from A level. So not only more content to deal with, but the content is harder. But also, again, when I was studying at school, I could probably have gotten away with, I can rely on my memory because things were modular back then. So I would study a topic about atoms, and then a little bit later, we would have an exams on atoms. Now you need to really have a full understanding of that, you know, all the way from year 9 so that you can sit that exam by GCSE. Students would also have a lack of understanding, and, you know, they're also trying to rely on their memory, but that's just, you know, it's not going to work with 3 years worth of content. Not a lot of information is going to be retained, right? So think of a bus, right? If a bus is going from A to destination Z, it's going to be taking a lot of passengers. But if it decides to miss out a lot of those alphabets and only starts from K, it's only going to be taking in so much information. So this is what happens when students leave preparing for the exams till the last minute. Then there are other things that students don't think about. So they don't think about things like revision materials. So if you're not planning early, it means you're going to have incomplete revision materials. You're not going to have the revision materials that you need. And that's going to leave you with stress. So whenever I teach my students, I always identify, okay, here's the summary that you need for this topic. Now I want you to get your flashcard out or whatever else you use to revise, and I want you to write that down so that you can use that to revise later. And what that means is while everybody else is stressed out during April time, panicking, to revise and put together their study and revision materials, you're already set and you have been using those revision materials before. Increased stress and anxiety, of course, procrastination, right? So if students are waiting too long, they are going to procrastinate. And that procrastination is actually going to lead to this cycle of lack of confidence and, of course, poor exam grades. So I just thought I'd sort of throw in a couple of statistics just to really bring that point home, okay? Students who procrastinate is associated with lower academic performance across various education levels, not just GCSE, but various education levels. Because when you procrastinate, there's just so much to take in, and that affects your academic performance. Increased stress and anxiety, like I have mentioned. And once you are stressed, once you are anxious, this then affects your ability to focus, your ability to really comprehend your material, and therefore you're not going to perform as well as you would have on exam day. Another statistics is that procrastination can lead to decreased motivation. And once you don't have that motivation, you are not going to put in that time to learn. And because you're not going to put in that time to learn, that's going to lead you to that, as I say, lack of confidence, that guilt. And ultimately, that's going to affect a child's success. So how can students start early then and avoid this mistake? Well, the first thing is little and often. I was speaking to one of my students recently who was asking for advice regarding revising. And I mentioned to her that the particular areas she needs to focus on, she just needs to do about 15 to 20 minutes every day, for about 5 days a week. And she was shocked. And she said to me, "What, you mean I don't have to be spending an hour on exam paper questions?" No, you don't. Just spending 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes on what you need to revise is sufficient enough. And in fact, research on science-backed learning actually proves that point. That is the best method for learning and retention. And this is really good for those who don't want to study, those who do not like studying. So if you have a child who is just really keen to get out there and go hang out with their friends, go play football and so on and so forth, then just doing that 20 minutes will be a motivation, because they're going to do it and now they're going to go out and do what they like, right? But over time, that little and often is going to add. Another way that I explain the little and often thing to my students is that I still remember songs from when I was 7, right? And I don't think about why, but when I do think about it, it's because of that little and often sort of philosophy, right? It's because when I was 7, I was listening to the same songs over and over again every day, every few days. And that is now instilled in my memory. And so that is the same process that the students need to use to help them with their exams and to help them avoid procrastination and not overestimate the time that is available to them. So essentially to help them prepare well for exams. The second one is students need to plan weekly. So when you plan your week and you plan your week well, you are eliminating that procrastination, you're eliminating that focus, you've identified what is it you need to focus on, or why that subject, or why that topic, or why that subtopic is exactly what you need to focus on. You've identified when you're going to focus on it, and you've also looked at how you're going to get the most out of that. And so if you know how to plan weekly well, which a lot of the students don't know how to do, that's going to be a complete game changer. And you can include things here like timetable and study plan. All of that things can help as well. So just to summarize very quickly, students think that they have plenty of time for their exams. As I'm recording this, we are in exam season in May. Yeah, we're at the start of May tomorrow, and we've still been enrolling students who are literally just coming to get that last minute help before their exams, right? When they really should have started early. And that's just because students think they have plenty of time. And because they think that they have plenty of time, it leads them to stress, to anxiety. They don't have sufficient revision materials. And that is so key. You know, I'm still constantly speaking to my students and say, where are your flashcards? Where are your revision notes? Many students still don't have that. So very important. So they have incomplete revision materials, and as such, they have that subpar performance on exam day. What's the remedy then? Little and often, right? Really hold on to that little and often, and planning weekly. Now, just to say thank you very much for staying with me till the end of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a step-by-step study plan that we already use here with our students. And this is so good because it would help your child, it helps our students identify the topics they need to focus on weekly. Remember earlier I said that it's not just about planning weekly, but it's really knowing what you need to focus on weekly. And I know for me, when I do that, my week is so much more productive, really planning strategically. It's going to help them know how to break down this topic into like a manageable plan, right, to study. And this, as I said, will really help them eliminate that friction and overwhelm. So if you think that this is something that will be helpful for your child, comment weekly plan in the post down below, and I'll make sure I send you access to it. Just to finish off, I literally just took a screenshot from one of our parents, you know, who we've just had a fantastic pleasure teaching. Her son Emmanuel, who's done fantastically well, you know, really getting those top grades with 8 and 9, planning on studying in Cambridge. And I just thought I'd put a screenshot there of just a recent review that she left just so that you can see some examples of the work we are doing with students. All right, that's it for now. Don't forget to comment weekly plan in the section below if you'd like to get a copy of that resource, and I will see you next time.